can it be done? So
Yeah.
take us through that process
Well,
where you're like,
I'll
can I
also
pull this off?
I'll start with being from here as well, because that was sort of the early planting the seeds for telling this story, but ultimately being a lifeguard here, but first just starting growing up, walking to St. Anne's and riding waves on a jiffy board, or a swimming kickboard before a Maury boogie board was invented. And then, knowing that I could be a lifeguard here, and be a waterman and learn to paddle and body surf. And, there's all this legendary history in lifeguarding, and there was this tradition of traveling within lifeguards. So around the world travel to look for new countries in surfing. And, now I know where it came from. But, there were guys like Sean Stussy shaping surfboards right over here, and he shaped my first surfboard. And I was just telling Steve Reese about this earlier, that, once Stussy went into clothing, and I was in New York City starting in advertising as a writer, Stussy opened a shop in Soho, and I was so inspired because I was like, wow, there's something about being from here where you can create something amazing and global, right? So long story short, coming back to California and starting to make documentary films, I did a film called 12 Miles North, the Nick Gabaldon story, and it was about late 1940s, Malibu, and the first documented African-American surfer, Nick Gabaldon. And that's where I met Dick and the Surfing Heritage. And I learned about Dick's story at that time. And, but it wasn't until when Bruce Brown passed away, and all of us were at Bruce's memorial at the Surfing Heritage. And I was thinking about this idea of doing some kind of tribute to Bruce, because I had been seeing all these messages coming in from surfers every generation from all over the world saying how much Bruce Brown and the Endless Summer meant to them. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I think Dick might have been there first, because Dick was everywhere first. And that's sort of how it all started. And I came up to Dick and I said, let's have a meeting and talk about this. And I asked Alex over here, I said, this is my idea. What do you think? And that's how it all started. It was that moment. And really it was like the first meeting with Dick, the official meeting at the Harbor House where we had coffee, right? Uh-huh. And I was basically like, Dick, is it true? What happened?
Well, it wasn't. We talked about lifeguards. I got to tell this lifeguard story. I didn't mean to.
No problem.
But this was Laguna, typical Laguna. So we're all lifeguards. I was a lifeguard in, 47, 8, 9. And
Wait, 1947, 48.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure just keep track of the arithmetic here, folks. Okay.
In those days, there was no test. You were a Laguna guy. You were just a lifeguard. The thought was you grew up here, you know how to swim. And there was no head of the lifeguards, and they had a cop that would come down. And we moved. This is a historic deal. The existing lifeguard station used to be part of the Union Station on Broadway on the corner there. That was a typical office that Union stations had all over the world or the country at that time. And I watched them jack it up and move it over to where it is today, only it had 3 stories in then. And I'll tell you, that's another story of life. They keep coming to me. So
everyone, there's 10 more. Yeah.
After I'd been a lifeguard, a couple of years, a guy named Carl Mays drove the ambulance. And they pointed him head of the lifeguards. He didn't know how to swim. He'd never been in the water in his life, but he was the head of us. And so, he'd just come down and check it out once in a while. And the first time this ever happened, because they were all Laguna guys, the swim team in Fullerton Junior College won the National Swimming Championship. And these guys were all 6'4", big, great guys in shape, and they came to Laguna and said, well, we just won the national championship. We want to be lifeguards in Laguna. This is a neat town. It has a lot of fun and parties, and we want to be lifeguards here. And Carl, he said, Jesus, I don't know what to do. How am I going to select who's going to be lifeguards? And he's scratching his head, and he's thinking, what am I going to do? And he finally says, all right, everybody that started kindergarten in Laguna, line up. And the guys from Fullerton, they said, what about us? He said, you line up too, but in back of the Laguna guys. And then he said, everybody that started kindergarten in Laguna, take one step forward. And so all of us took one step forward. And he said, these boys are hired. And the Fullerton guys started yelling, that's not fair. And Carl says, these boys have local knowledge. And that was the end of it. So, but that was Laguna, how it was. It was just, there's a bunch of other stories I can tell you.
And it continues today in many ways. I want to steer it to the connection with Bruce. And I know you're familiar with the connection that him and Dick had, but maybe you can speak to how vital and what relationship, that when Bruce would, talk about Dick and the importance of their connection.
No, absolutely. And first of all, you really are the inspiration for everyone in this surf industry. So again, all these years, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I mean, when I met Bruce, in the 90s, and my endeavor was just to preserve that legacy of the endless summer, and Bruce was amazing. He just, he felt that it had to be taken care of and gave me that opportunity to run with it. And here we are, 22 years later. And that's where, Richard, as he said, just sort of popped up. I mean, we were actually at your home, Surfing Heritage, celebrating, the endless summer license plate. And Richard came up to me and said that he wants to work on this film, and how I felt about it. And I was like all in. I said, let's go for it. That friendship between Dick and Bruce was just a very special one. That's one of the reasons we've been, supporting Surfing Heritage for all those years. The entire team there is a dedicated team to surfing. So it's the home of surfing. So the one thing that I felt was missing, and which is the sort of the thing that Richard picked up on, is that no one had really written or wrote about the story of the endless summer and where it really came from, and that was Dick. So when we got this opportunity with Richard and to step in and say, we're going to do a documentary around it, I said, go for it. And it's been a great partnership. Richard has done an amazing job. We're really proud of this piece. Again, and most importantly, it really pays tribute to Dick's contribution to the entire surf industry.
I'll have to add, and that's amazing. Thank you. I have to add this because this is really the kind of project that gives you goosebumps all the time. But what I credit Alex with is really carrying forth Bruce's vision as an independent filmmaker and an artist. And that Alex, by supporting this project, said, Bruce would have backed this project because you're an independent filmmaker that wants to tell this story.
Absolutely.
And that's what Alex has done to his credit, is he keeps Bruce alive because Bruce's philosophies are running this project, and he's here with us. So that's what's so beautiful, about the relationships that Dick had with Bruce, that Dick had with Whitmore. And these are amazing things to be treasured.
Well, those were great guys, all of them. They had such different talent, and we all had the same attitude about it. Nobody ever thought about making money. Bruce, Hobie, it was all about how can we have more fun. And then we'd be laying on the beach thinking of something, and Hobie would say, well, if I make this new toy, it'll be more fun to do it. I mean, we just came down to the lifeguard towers, what kind of hung out. Bruce and Hobie didn't grow up here like I did, but they gravitated here because this is where the center of the world was as far as beach and surf and activities and parties. I mean, we had some great parties, I got to tell you. But
No, we had horse meat and lobster, right?
we did have horse meat, cost 16 cents a pound. We told all the girls it was top sirloin. They loved it.
But so in the sport of who's having the most fun, all of you guys seem like it seemed like this magical tribe of individuals. Who was having the most fun out of all of you?
Oh, I did. No question about it.
That was Dick's job.
I mean, and I don't mean that really, but we all had a great time. But Hobie got married really early, married Sharon, went to high school here in Laguna, and he had a couple, 3 kids right away. So he had to go to work. I didn't get married till I was 43 or 4, so I had a lot of time to party where I made up for all the rest of the guys that got married too early.
You were Han Solo for a while, right?